Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions. Tony Diaz, thank you so much for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. I'm super excited for our time together. In fact, I had a hard time sleeping last night. I was so excited about this. I am so excited to have you tell us and share with us your life story. Like we talked about before we hit record, everybody has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. So with your permission, we're going to start with where you were born, go all the way up to today, and then we want to talk about Flip IQ, and we want to talk about what you're doing with that. And we'll have another follow-up episode where we get into the real nuts and bolts of it, and I'm super excited for that too. So people can be looking forward to that coming in the future. But thanks again for being here, bud.
Hey, Mike, I really appreciate it. I've been excited as well, obviously, to be able to share a little bit of my experience, how I got here. And, we all get to take a little bit of encouragement and listen to other people's stories. I do listen to a lot of podcasts, so I hope I can bring some value to your listeners. So I'm excited. So thank you.
Well, I know for a fact you will, dude. I know for a fact you will. That's not even a question. You've already brought a ton of value to my life, and we haven't even done a podcast interview yet, right?
No, I appreciate it.
So where were you born?
So I was born in Guadalajara, Mexico.
Okay.
Born there, lived there a few years, moved down to Chihuahua. My dad was in the business of mattress and grew up pretty well. Unfortunately, my dad passed when we were 11. And when I was 11, I have younger brothers. And every year we used to come out here and go to Disneyland. So after my dad passed, we came out here, and my mother met a guy from the Bronx, Italian guy. A little bit younger than my mom, and life kind of brought us out here to the United States.
That's cool, man.
So
that's cool.
For us, it's a typical immigrant mentality. We were very blessed that when we lived in Mexico. Actually, we're very fortunate to have a lot of nice things, and it was a learning experience to transfer between cultures and things like that. But what I think was more valuable, and it was hard to understand at that age, is having a lot of things to come in here to having nothing and having to restart, especially when you don't speak the language. It was tough, but it was a good experience. So that was kind of my transfer to this awesome country.
So how old were you when you came to the U.S. permanently?
12.
Okay.
Very little English, so that was fun.
Where in the U.S. did you move to?
We came out here to San Pedro. We're there for the summer, and then my parents bought a house in Chino.
Okay.
And I grew up in Chino, and I've been in the Inland Empire here for a long time now, since 12, 13 years old. So this has been my stomping grounds, and of course through real estate I've been able to expand. So I got to really get to know Southern California well.
That's cool, man. So question for you. So the 11 years that you lived in Mexico and the rest of your childhood that you lived in Chino, what was your favorite thing about growing up in both places? So Mexico first.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing, and this is something you get to appreciate as you get a little bit older, is the culture, the music. And for me, I can tell you, people are shocked. I know Marty Robbins and some of the classic rock and things like that because of my dad, Frank Sinatra. And I also get to bring the traditional Mexican music that we all grew up with as well. So especially with my dad being a cook, he really did a great job in the Italian side. And then, of course, we got the traditional abuelita tortillas and all that fun stuff. So I feel really blessed that I had a lot of good opportunity to enjoy both cultures. Um, our girls only speak Spanish, and we try to keep that tradition as close as we can. But we also appreciate and adapt very well to what being an American immigrant is all about. And I am very happy and we're blessed that we have the opportunity to come to this country and do as well as we've been able to do. So we're very thankful for that.
Kind of changes your perspective a little bit, right?
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. So in growing up in Chino, what was your favorite thing about growing up there?
The smell at 6 a.m. in the morning of the cows. So,
And
anybody that knows
not
Chino,
the preferred end, right? Not the
that is the signature Chino. I mean, obviously it's grown a lot. It's been a minute. Chino, just a small town. I mean, it's a decent place. We moved up from Chino to Ontario. Now I live in Upland on Euclid, which is a really nice place. So we're still in the neighborhood. I like the Inland Empire. I also have a place down in Huntington Beach, get out of the heat. So through the real estate, we've been able to kind of flip ourselves down towards the beach, and we get to spend time back and forth. So I'm rooted here because of my family and business, but I also get to enjoy the best of Southern California by going to the Orange County beach, which is one of my favorites.
That's cool, man. Good for you. So you went to high school in Chino?
Yes, sir. Chino High.
Okay. Did you have a favorite subject in high school?
Math has always been my favorite. I have an interesting ability to visualize numbers and processes. I tell people I got kind of a visual whiteboard here, and my brain does a lot of work for me, which is interesting. And I not necessarily very good at the English writing, all that fun stuff. So now ChatGPT and I are best friends, and it does all my writing for me. So tools like that have been great. So I've always enjoyed the math, and I would say tied more to the problem solving and things. That's kind of one of my fortes. I'm a fix-it guy.
Yeah, I know that about you, by the way. So in high school, did you have a favorite teacher?
I did. Interestingly enough, he was a history teacher, and I never liked history, but he was just such a good teacher, and I wanted to just make a good impression, right? And because he tried and he was a good teacher, I remember the task was to remember all 50 states, which of course I forgot at least a third of them. And I got it right, and it was just just those type of teachers where they give you that incentive to learn. Even though it wasn't my favorite subject, it was a great teacher. I also had Mr. Murillo that happened to pass away recently. People that happen to know Chino, he's just a great teacher, great family. Got to know his kids. His daughters just became a federally appointed life appointment judge.
Wow.
So these are really, just immigrants as well. They come here from Mexico, and they learn and adapt, and it's just very inspiring to see those people. And I remember he used to tell me, Mr. Murillo, he says, "Come on, man, you just, don't make us look bad as immigrants, man. You got a brain on you, figure it out, do your homework." And it was little pushes like that that always made a big difference for us. So those teachers do make impact. So we've always been very appreciative, especially since we got to know their family very well.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing how teachers just have an impact on you? Like it's amazing. Like your life turns, and it's just amazing. So did you play sports in high school?
Yeah, I'll give you a funny story. So I'm 6'1", 6'2" with heels. So I was about 205 pounds in high school, and I've always been strong. So one of the PE teachers who spoke Spanish, she says, "Hey, you want to play football?" Say, "I'll go play it," right?
Sure.
So I show up in my cleats and my chin guards thinking it's soccer, football,
Yeah.
right? That's what we
Right.
call it in Mexico.
Right.
And so I didn't know I was strap on a helmet and go beat each other up. And that was interesting. So that was my freshman. So I played football, and I got to enjoy it after I got comfortable beating my head against other guys. And it was fun. And I started, and it was, I got hurt my junior year. I dislocated my elbow. So jumped the season, but it was fun. And it helped me just really adapt to the culture, because I became really shy by not knowing the language. And before, I was never a shy kid. I came here and I became very shy, introverted, and the football and the friendship that I had with some of the guys are really cool with me. And even though my English was really bad, they were still very friendly. And there's always kids that are assholes and things like that, as you would expect. But it was really good to have friendships, and I still have a lot of good friends. As a matter of fact, my best friend, who's my neighbor, married my sister. He was one of the All-American. He's a great guy. One of the coaches, Coach Munger. So if anybody knows Chino, he's one of the legends in the CIF high school. And my brother-in-law, Sean, he was one of their best players. So I became friends with him over the years. So it was great to be able to build those relationships. So football was fun. And I wouldn't say I was really good at it, but I started. I was decent, not too fast, but I enjoyed it. It was a good, fun time.
What position did you play?
Tackle. So I was offensive tackle, and they had me pulling and running in front of the running backs. And we had a guy, Alex Brown, man. The guy was quick, and he was just always behind me, pushing me along. But I could take a hit, and it was fun. It was good. We did well, made it to CIF a few times. It didn't quite make it to the playoffs, but it was a lot of time.
You were his road grader, baby.
Trying, yeah. So this kid's had wheels on him, and I couldn't keep up, but I definitely was able to at least help a little bit. So
that's awesome, man. That's awesome. So growing up, who was the most influential person to you?
You know what? As you evolve, right, you have different people that kind of influence. So I was able to get my license at 18. My mom and dad were in real estate. My dad was doing mortgages. My mom was doing real estate. So it was kind of clear what I was going to do. So I studied for my test, passed my license. A week after I became 18, I had my license. And I went to work for a guy named Dale Loveland out of Century 21 Beachside in Chino. And he was the manager of the office. Beachside, for those of you guys who've been in the business long enough, Tom Denny was the broker. He had quite a few offices. He was one of the big brokers out there for a while.
Yeah.
And Dale kind of took me under his wing, and it was a really interesting story where remember the Tom Ferry yellow jacket with the tag and everybody, they used to kind of re-image you and put you through this training. So I told Dell, the manager, hey, I'm going to go to this Tom Ferry thing. And he basically says, hey, I'll show you something. He pulls me into his office, and he runs the report. And he says, you know, the number one agent in this office is from production. And he says, you don't see him on the board, but it's me. I've been doing this for so many years. I'm going to give you the secret, but you have to give me $1. You have to promise that you're going to do what I'm going to tell you. And this is back in 93. Wow. So there's no MLS. It was a book.
Yeah.
Well, there was an MLS. There was no login MLS.
Right.
And basically he says, come in, and you're going to come in at 7, and you're going to call for 3 hours, and then you're going to go home, do whatever you want. Then you're going to come in from 4 and call another 3 hours. So I came in, and he says, bring your desk right in front so I know you're there. And for the first 6 months, I went through it, and I said, what do I tell him? He says, I don't know. Figure it out. Call him. you'll come up with your own script, right? Do you want to sell?
Yeah.
That's the thing, right? And I got Rookie of the Year that year. I got quite a few awards. The Golden Shredded Money Globes. I don't know if you remember those.
I do. I started in 92, dude.
There you go. So, you remember the book and then the
Yep, I sure do.
book,
I sure do. I remember the telephone.
That's
I remember
right.
the book. I remember the desk. I remember make the calls. Let's go. Dial for dollars, right? Yeah, it was. Yeah,
So
I remember all that, man.
so I did get Rookie of the Year. At 18 years old, I made 129 grand, which you can imagine I just blew every dime I could on everything. And but yeah, I did really well because of him, and his secret was that there was no secret.
Yeah.
Right. You just got to work.
Yeah.
And your questions, who is my mentor in this particular business? He was able to get me past the understanding of the magic pill and realize that there is no magic pill. And I did really well for 18, 19, 20, and then 21, I was able to start getting into bars, and things kind of shifted downhill a little bit. I made too much money too fast, and not relative for that age. And I just I lost focus, especially at that age. It was a good learning curve for me to crash really early.
Yeah.
And it was kind of one of those things that I learned to fail early in my life. That's been helpful. So he was really, really good in helping me out. He also left the business a few years, and he actually left me 4 REO accounts. It was Transamerica, Long Beach Mortgage. I forgot the other 2, but they're REO accounts that he left town for a very personal reason. I kept those accounts, and I did really well for a long time. And one of the asset managers that I became friends with pulled me aside. He says, "Man, I know you're buying real estate as well. We can't sell you stuff because there's conflict of interest.
Right.
So you got to either be an REO agent or flip, because I don't want to get you in trouble or ourselves." So I actually ended up giving up the accounts and continue to flip, as it was a lot more profitable than the commissions. And I just kind of fell in love with the getting things fixed, right? I've always been a fixer. So that was a really big influence. And of course, my mother and dad being in the business for a long time, they were very successful. So seeing them work hard, it wasn't hard for us to kind of have that pattern, outside of just being diverted by life, especially being young and having, like I said, a few nickels at that time. It was, I had a lot of fun when I was young. It's one of those things that you look back and say, what would I tell myself if I could go back 30 years? And I know we all have heard that question, and I realize that I would tell myself, just rock on, man, rock on, because I wouldn't have listened.
Well, and you wouldn't have learned what you learned, right?
That's right.
You got to skin your nose. You got to skin your chin, right? You gotta fail forward to an extent in life, right? And a lot of what you have today, and again, I'm cheating, but a lot of what you have today in terms of what you're doing and what you're building came from the wisdom that you gained from all of that, right? I mean, you learned more falling on your face, right, than you ever would have just partying and succeeding at a very, very high level. I mean, life every once in a while slaps you, right? And to your credit, and this is something I need to acknowledge you for, you get back up, you dust yourself off, and you put one foot in front of the other, right? It's kind of like the manager at Century 21 saying to you, here's the phone, here's the desk, here's the book, right? Dial, start calling. And you're like, well, what's the answer? What's the script? Well, you'll figure it out.
That's right.
Right? That's the absolute perfect example of failing forward. You're on the phone and you don't know what to say. So all of a sudden you figure it out. You just make it up as you go, figure out what works, and then you replicate that. Right? That was brilliant for him to do that because then you learned faster and it was more permanent.
Exactly.
Think about it, right? I mean, it's like you have enough people, yelling at you on the phone and hanging the phone up and all that kind of stuff, right? You start figuring out very, very quickly what you need to do to succeed and what
That's
needs
right.
to be said, right? So, I
That's
mean,
right.
that's a big, big deal. So
Yeah.
so Long Beach Mortgage, by the way, I was in the REO business. Long Beach Mortgage was a big account. That was
Yeah.
unbelievable. Unbelievable. Um,
It was.
it really was, man. The loans that they used to do, because I was in the mortgage business before, right? I did a ton of business with Long Beach. And then, the loans that they did, I mean, the REO side was crazy. Anyway, so you get into flipping, you're flipping and making money and doing well, right? I'm presuming obviously you were buying REOs and fixing them up and flipping them, that kind of thing. What's the most important thing that you learned early in your career in retail real estate
On the flipping or on the retail side?
on the retail side?
You know what? I would say the people that I saw become successful, there's no magic, right? And it was just basic structure, discipline, and consistency. Everybody that was the top producer, right? You would walk into the office and everybody had their nice suits and they had their signs and their yellow jackets. And, this guy was just Johnny on the spot. He was there making the phone calls. The other people that were very successful would go out and walk their farms. And at the end of the day, once you see past the fluff, there's no magic to this thing. It's just, you have to have a niche, you got to stay focused, and you just got to be consistent. And that's what I've seen over and over. And
You got to get after it every day.
That's right. That's right. And I suffer from shiny penny syndrome all my life, and to me, being able to stay focused has been a challenge. And especially as I try to figure out, what I not necessarily where I'm good at is what floats my boat, right? What gets me out of bed, and I'm very creative. But it
You are.
also
I agree with that.
it also creates a blur of what you need to focus, right? And one of the things you said, and I would probably give a lot of credit to my ability to learn how to fail and get up. Unfortunately, I lost respect for money, and I say that in a way that I see people that fear money and they hold on to it really tight, and there's people on the other side of it, and not necessarily the ones better or worse. I just don't respect money because I was able to make it. So I lost fear for it and respect. So the problem is that I never, I knew that if I had a problem, all I had to do is get up and just try a little bit harder or focus a little bit more. And not that the money came easy, as I figured out how to make big chunks of money, especially from flipping, and you fix a lot of problems. The discipline issue with the money is that, you can make money, but if you're not saving it or putting it away or buying properties, because you rather make that 40 grand in the flip than to go leave it there in a rental because you're only going to make $500. I would say that was one of my biggest mistakes that I had, that I liquidated my rentals chasing the technology. And I'll tell you about that later. But learning how to fail and get up and move forward and fix problems, it's gotten me a long ways, but it's gotten me also in a little bit of lost the direction. But it's given me also a really interesting perspective of the what not to do.
Right.
And if you were to ask me what my secret is, or what do I know that most people don't, it's not what to do, it's what not to do. And once you're able to get rid of those variables and you understand this works, it's not fun, maybe for some people could be excited, but the reality, I'm sure we all seen the movie Moneyball, and I always refer to it, it's the singles that win the game. And For me, my personality is just go swing out of my shoes and crank it out of the park. But every time I go for the big stuff, I pay the flipping gods their money back, and make my dollars, and they sure take it back. So
it's interesting in Moneyball.
Balance.
It was on base percentage.
That's right.
Right. And it was
right.
oftentimes the guys that would get up to the plate and they would walk. They had a higher percentage of walking and singles, like you're saying, doubles, that kind of thing, right?
That's right.
But it was the on-base percentage. They were literally looking at how do they get from home plate to first.
That's right.
Right? And how do they, and the people that did it more consistently, they weren't the shiny pennies, right? They weren't the Jeters of the world. They weren't the, Aaron Judges. They weren't the Shotanis or whatever his name is. Whatever his name is. You know what I'm talking about? The guy from from
the
LA.
Japanese, yeah.
I mean, he's legitimate, unbelievable superstar. What they were using though was a mathematical system that ranked these guys based on base percentage.
That's right.
And it was phenomenal because you could go get somebody like I forget the guy's name, but it was his little brother that was in the movie. His little brother was the one that they went, Jason Giambi, right? And they went out and got his little brother. And his little brother was, in Vegas every weekend, and he was in, right? I mean, he was, right? He was not exactly the pillar of discipline, right? But he had an on-base percentage that was higher than even his brother, who was the superstar. And they were paying him, tens of millions of dollars a year to play. It's incredible when you look at those types of things. And that's, by the way, something that I need to acknowledge you for too, because you've been through all of this, right? You've been through the gamut. Okay. And one of the things that you've learned is and it's part of your unique ability. Like, you're really smart when it comes to numbers, and it comes to models, and it comes to sort of almost a predictive analysis, right? Where you're looking at it and going, okay, this works. This doesn't, this does, right? That's very similar to the Moneyball model. You with me? It's not the bright, shiny penny. It's here's the solution based on all the lumps that I've accumulated over all the years, right?
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like, and the beautiful thing about you, Tony, is you are so unbelievably generous about sharing with people, this is what you should do. You with me?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That is such a huge thing. And it sets you apart from so much of the world. I mean, I'm talking, you're in the top, 0.5% in my view, simply because you've been there and done that, right? And you've experienced it. And yeah, you've made mistakes, but you've learned from it. You know what I mean? Like, when I was growing up, and I'm sure you can imagine this, I was a handful. And my dad, who is not built like me by any stretch of the imagination, right? My dad pulled me aside one day and he said, listen, you're an aggressive kid and you're going to get in trouble. You're going to make mistakes. He goes, I don't have a problem with you making mistakes. He goes, where you and I are going to get sideways is if you don't learn from those mistakes. If you keep repeating them,
that's right,
we're going to get sideways. And this is a man, by the way, that when he gets mad, you don't want to be in the same zip code. Okay. So when he says where we're going to get sideways, you'd better listen. Okay. I mean, I survived my childhood. There are a lot of people, including. We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out Calendly.com/Rio760.